Hey, greetings, everybody, and welcome to the One True Divine Feminine and Psychic Investigations Tarot, a place where we spread light, love, and angelic vibes across the universe. Also, we solve crimes and get out pertinent information to the world via astrology. And yes, I am the woman who solved my own crime using tarot cards and astrology. Before I start today, I just want to say um, if you're working at differentiating what you see of me, like my true person, from the lies that you've heard, just please be advised that someone was paid a great deal of money to take me out. Okay. Mind you, we don't know who that someone is because there have literally been hundreds of people who have come against me. It sounds, however, like they were paid pretty handsomely to do it for all of the torture and slander and everything that ensued. But you should not make any assumptions on who that is because it would not be fair because um, literally there are hundreds of people that have been involved. So don't other or shame based upon pure guesswork. Okay. But just know if you're seeing what you're seeing is different than what you may be hearing, that's the reason why. Also, and I can't seem to find this on YouTube itself, but nothing seems to be working very well. I invoke my copyright laws for all of the material that I present on my channel. So many buttons and things that it seems like I should have access to in this platform aren't working, but I'm invoking my copyright laws verbally. No one has my permission to reuse my work in any fashion, as these works are my creative property. Furthermore, researching the astrological meanings of things takes a lot of time and knowledge, and people who can't get off their ass to work for themselves should not be able to steal from others. So, if you want to learn, that's fine, but then, learn and do your own thing, okay? And of course, it's okay to research some, but to completely, steal people's work is just a form of vampirism. Okay. Also, please bear in mind that this is an entertainment only website. If you happen to garner any truth from it, that's great. That's not the intended purpose. Furthermore, astrology is not an exact science, so take everything I say with a grain of salt. If epiphanies happen to occur for you, more power to you. And as you know, I like to really focus on eclipse energy, and I'm using our nation's chart. Why? Because events are going to unfold that are going to be very public and front and center. I didn't do these pair of eclipses in order because the lunar eclipse captured my imagination first, but we're projecting things way out until October of 2023. So the solar eclipse that I'm going to go over regarding October 14th of this fall should be read first. And what I would suggest for those of you that are law enforcement or detectives or other people working on the case is to, one, know what the energy is presenting, right? And where, work can be done well. And then also pull this data out as you approach these dates. And I would pull it out, even a couple weeks ahead to just have a look, right? Because the energies are lined up for certain things to occur. So anyhow, in the fall, just know this is going to, some of these things could come to pass, possibly, again, entertainment only, right? So, and the things that begin on the solar eclipse of October 14th of this year could come to a point of finalization on the 28th. Often that occurs, not always, but often, right? So expect that 2-week period and the time leading up to it and thereafter to be really, really potent and very powerful. Okay, and that's why I've been focusing on these particular messages. So we're going to start off with the October 14th stuff. A powerful new moon eclipse. It's actually called a solar eclipse, either one works, will grace the skies in Libra on October 14th, 2023, according to our nation's chart. And eclipses such as these usher in endings, usually quite dramatically, as well as possibly new beginnings. News is likely to erupt as a result of this energy. Why? Because Mercury, the message giver and planet of communications, falls smack in between the sun, which represents the male yang energy of our nation, and the moon, our feminine principle. Since I'm using our country's chart, this will illuminate world events that are visible to the public. But since we currently have several key players who are likely heavily linked to the story of our nation, myself included right now, some of this energy could also represent individuals as well. Sometimes that happens, depending upon how intertwined you are with the story of the country. So whatever issues become front and center at this time will be visible, basically, for all the world to see. For the eclipse falls into the very highly visible 10th house of career and outward standing to the world. It also represents the government itself. So whatever goes down during that October period, it's going to be large. Okay. Now, an eclipse such as this is going to reveal an ending to some significant partnership. And here you can see there's two people that are going their separate ways, right? They're taking their own solar fire and they're heading in opposite directions. And it could also equate to the beginning of a new partnership too, but often one ends so that another can begin. This is the endings, though, are really shown by the south node of the moon and the fact that the eclipse is blacking out a partnership that is no longer working. That's the Libran energy. Now, as always, I like to dissect things by referring to Dane Rudyard's Mind Fire website. And I like to give him credit for that. I've looked stuff up on his website for many years. And during this eclipse energy, the sun is going to be at 20 degrees of Libra. And according to him, this refers to the constructive use of socio-cultural and religious matters. That's what we're being called to do at this time. And just pay attention and see, if this tends to ring true as this date occurs. The moon, on the other hand, at 11 degrees, 57 minutes of Libra, refers to a wise professor who is peering into matters that are hidden. And of course, the moon always ends up revealing things in time, right? Rudyard indicates that there will be some problems that crop up while attending a special cultural event, almost as if it's a setup. FYI. Now, Mercury, which helps us to process information, will also be riding right in the middle of this eclipse at 15 degrees, 52 minutes of Libra. Sometimes when the energy falls very near an eclipse point, I like to jump ahead for the meaning, and I have done so in this case. So here, Mind Fire warns that men will be forced to face realities, especially in archetypical and spiritual matters in regards to the relationships they have fostered. As they face this issue head on, they will begin to realize that a heaving storm has severely damaged their boat. Now, in dream work, whenever you have a vehicle, a boat or a car or whatever, that's always your path through life. If the boat isn't completely demolished, like the big emotional deluge that we see here, serious reconstruction will be called for at this time. Okay, because the storm that's brewing is going to raise serious waves, and they are happening because people have ventured too far away from social norms. I'm not making this up. This is coming from Rudyard's site. That in itself can cause erratic emotional waters, relationships, and psychotic storms to brew. And here you can see the hecticness of the emotional energy, right? It's causing the towers to bend and fall, for example. Now, based on the severity of the tempest, cosmic forces will be called upon to intervene. Not my words, it's an energy read. Okay, since the South Node is connected to this eclipse, losses in partnerships are likely to occur. What unravels at this time will probably become quite public. This could equate to personal matters such as a divorce, but since this is our nation's chart, it could also reference a rift of some sort on a grander scale, perhaps a division between parties or even a break with an international partner, for example. Large court cases could also ensue, and those will make the news in very grand fashion. All right. Since Aries falls into the nation's fourth house, and Aries is I want, and I want it now, right? With like a firecracker going off. Since Aries falls into the nation's fourth house of homeland, this collapse of partnerships could cause warlike conditions if we don't focus on the fact that the North Node and Chiron, the wounded healer, are asking us to heal our nation's wounds at this time. Doing so repairs the fabric of our country. Pluto, who is sitting not far away, will also be pouring energy towards this healing via a sextile. So it's time for us to take stock of where we are, how we got here, and then to start figuring out how we can heal where we have landed ourselves. Now, healing could also equate to creating the changes that are needed to fix the very issues that brewed the storm in the first place in a healthy manner. It's essential for us to do so in our country so that we don't erupt into violence, start taking each other's heads off. A very potential Aries outcome based upon our cultural differences. Now, this healing is not going to be easy, right? Because there are so many planets squaring our ascendant in the nation's chart. The ascendant or rising sign has everything to do with the mask that we present to the world. Although Scorpio sits at the beginning of our nation's chart, the bulk of the house is actually filled with Sagittarius. So currently we are trying to project that fact that we are united, but in truth, because of our two-party system and changing demographics, we know that simply is not true. So it's like the mask is coming off. And these very issues are tearing our country apart. Because of that, the mask we are trying to present is slipping, and the world at large is seeing the fracture lines. And you can see that right here. I mean, clearly, we've got a two-faced thing going on. So many planets are squaring our outward mask right now. The sun, the moon, Mercury, the North Node, and Chiron. All eyes in the world are upon us. What is America really about right now? Do we honor our partnerships with others? Do we pretend to be one thing and find out we really are actually another, right? Do we say one thing, but our actions prove the opposite is true? We like to hide our secrets, Scorpio, but Sagittarius hungers for the truth. All I know is that we need to figure out what we stand for soon, because ill-willed countries around the world are poised to take advantage of the weakened position caused by infighting. That is assuming, of course, that we don't first fall apart from within because of the separations that divide us. That's why we need to work on the healing process, despite the news that is going to come forth during this eclipse. Now, for individuals that are heavily embroiled in our nation's story right now, the masks will also be slipping. Though they may be trying to present a strong front, in reality, a storm is brewing behind the scenes. And we're already, as we've mentioned, witnessing that several ships are likely to get sunk as a result, and if not sunk, damaged severely. Between the energy of Scorpio and Sag in the first house, I believe many falsities and things that have been hidden behind masks will soon be revealed. Okay? Now, all of these squares to our sun also indicate the fracture lines that are forming in our country based upon our different ideological perspectives, right? These need to be healed, right? Um, Even if it means that the best answer is to create territory so we all get more of what we want without battling so bitterly. Okay, since we soon are to face enormous climate calamities, joining together in more aligned communities might also help us to better face the coming disasters as we align with kin, right? Falling apart is more easily done when you're living next to souls you resonate with. And I hate to say that, but that is the reality of what's coming our way. And so, again, if we lived in territories where we were all, having the rules and things that we wanted more, would that bring in more peace and happiness and loving kindness as disasters strike? I don't know, but it might work, right? Okay. Now, this is really important. These don't happen very often, but when they do, they always bear a message. A special configuration called a yod, which is the finger of God in astrology, is also very prominent in our nation's chart at this time. The finger of God is pointing straight to Neptune at Pisces. Again, the symbology for that does not reflect my own interpretation nor even my personal thoughts, but it is drawn from Rudier's Mindfire website. He claims that this Piscean degree point is a religious organization that succeeds in overcoming the corrupting influence of perverted practices and materialized ideals. Not my words. Now, if that does not resonate for you, discard his interpretation as meaningless. It's not mentioned to cause harm, but to bring enlightenment where needed. Okay? Now, in my worldview, God's lessons are written in the stars via planetary placement. So you can see the cosmos here with everything in its neat little spot. I don't make up the energy, I read it. To have the finger of God point so clearly to a matter, a very specific configuration must occur. And yes, I do think there are spiritual lessons entwined in this placement. In this case, two other planets are helping to form this critical alignment. Pluto at 27 degrees, 53 minutes of Capricorn is one of them. Okay. Now, Capricorn has everything to do with laws, institutions of power, and the halls of government. Pluto also reflects corruption, seediness, taboos, and especially things regarding sexual matters because it's ruled by Scorpio. It also has a relentless, powerful force. And though we tend to think of it often in negative terms, it also represents the very soul of our country. So in this instance, I believe the mighty arm of the government, which is Pluto, is going to help deliver the message that Neptune bears, and it is going to do so in a forceful manner. Why? Because some of the things we are doing are harming us spiritually as a nation. Okay, whether you look up the 27 or 28 degree mark for this powerhouse symbol, the message is quite clear. Roger describes the 27 degree point as the ascent of realizations that various spiritual leaders are going to come to regarding their culture. Remember, Neptune is how we connect to God. At 28 degrees, the symbol brings forth the same message, but in slightly different fashion. It declares that the soul needs to understand the spiritual implications contained in certain actions, as these things very much affect our consciousness. And since Neptune is the planet bearing the message, and that's God, of course, and it's the finger of God pointing right at it, and it is sitting in the third house of mind in our collective consciousness, this seems to ring true. Now, forming the other base of the yod is Uranus at 22 degrees of Taurus, which falls into the nation's fifth house. Rudger, in his wisdom, defines this degree point as the spiritual inspiration that comes from overcoming a crisis. He uses the symbol of a dove flying over turbulent waters to relate the story. Now, since the fifth house deals with children, among other things, I believe the clear implication of the finger of God will not be lost on those who need to face the lesson. I am in no way implicating any specific group in this matter either, because, to be fair, I don't know who sent the picture to begin with, but I believe that Child Protective Services soon will. Using indecent imagery is not an acceptable means of securing wealth, nor for delivering retribution. And Uranus is also the sign of sudden awakenings and epiphanies, right? So it's going to bring in an epiphany regarding this. Now, Venus, the planet of love, will be opposing Saturn during this eclipse, and it will be sitting at 4 degrees Virgo. Overcoming societal and cultural differences is the intended message of this female Venus figure, and it's being delivered in the 9th house of our nation's chart. Amongst many other things, the 9th house governs over courts, the judicial system, lawyers, judges, religion, faith, and higher consciousness. Since it is ruled by Sagittarius, the 9th house, it also governs the truth. Okay, this Venusian energy is opposed to Saturn, the giver of lessons, who is falling at the critical 0 degree mark of Pisces. Saturn opposing the planet of love usually equates to serious rifts in personal relationships, such as breakups, disagreements, or even divorce. Those with this configuration may also feel compelled to pull away from karmic situations that deliver endless hardships rather than love. That could impact affairs, secret societies, various churches, or charitable institutions. Tough love at Saturn, opposing Venus, is going to bring many things to light regarding these matters and will cause imprisonment for some. Prison guards, private investigators, and the treacherous plots of secret societies and other organizations may get exposed as a result. Okay, the matters that come to light will hopefully cause positive change to occur regarding our justice system, as well as improving our faith practices, both of which are 9th house matters. Virgo seeks perfection and improvement in all things. That's the purpose of Virgo. Now, Saturn is also going to be opposing Black Moon Lilith at the same time. Lilith is an asteroid who is tapped in psychically. Psychic abilities are often not understood by government officials. That's represented by Saturn. And I imagine right now, some of you are wondering, what do you do with this information that's being revealed? Just know this: there is truth to the Virgoan Venus message, as well as what Black Moon Lilith has to say. And the message is being delivered with love and with the intent to improve matters. A Venus in Virgo and someone who is tapped in psychically would have it no other way. It is to raise our vibration and to change our collective consciousness for the better. Jupiter will be amplifying what goes down, because it amplifies everything it touches, for it's going to be riding right next to Uranus at 13 degrees of Taurus. And you can see that spark of inspiration, and it has electrical energy to it, and everything that Jupiter touches goes big. Now, Mindfire refers to the symbol as a debt a man must carry following a huge buying spree. It's as if they're bearing the cost for a social burden. That heavy burden appears to be corruption and overindulgence in matters of love and children. I say that because that's fifth house matters, and that's where this is sitting. The combination of Jupiter riding so closely to Uranus is going to cause sudden, major shakeups in all things ruled by Taurus and the nation's fifth house. Now, for starters, Taurus governs banks, financiers, currency, anything we love, including our children, and love affairs. Shifts in our value system could prove monumental at this time. Uranus shakes things up. It can also reveal things, especially in regards to money laundering, cryptocurrency, and bank fraud, and it is going to do so in a very big way. Where belief systems, which is ruled by Jupiter, have determined that they are the higher law than Caesar's law, I suspect that Saturn and Uranus will jointly deliver shake-up lessons as authorities strive to regain control over a very volatile situation. Now, changing our collective consciousness is the task that Pluto, sextile Neptune, remember that's where the finger of God is asking us to address. So the government is asking us to address this issue. We will be tasked by authorities, that's Saturn, to clean up filthy imagery and indecent photos and film footage to steal from court cases. Filthitizing women to steal money is not an acceptable human practice. Neptune also rules over aliases, angels, assassinations, brotherhoods, corporations, crime, deceit, exploitation, and we know a number of people were exploited, forebodings, and fortune telling. And the heavy hand of authority, which is Saturn, could thus weigh in all of these matters during this eclipse. I'm just trying to give you a little heads up, okay? But it's all meant for the good, okay? Neptune also rules over holy water, impersonations, kind of like my doppelganger and the people who persist in copycatting me, infidelities, kidnappings in jail, mob psychology, necromancy, nymphomania, and obsessions also fall sway to Neptune, as do large religious organizations. Perjury, plots, and propaganda are also governed by Neptune too. And we know that in the past, Russia was used to sway a U.S. election using fake news. Sextiles such as we now see between Neptune and Pluto indicate an easy flow of information. And this can either be for good or ill will, because so much depends on our intentions and how we harness that energy. In the past, certainly plots unfolded that appeared to have the making of overturning our government. Okay. Now, Neptune also has everything to do with drugs and drug cartels. And here you can see somebody who's lost in the illusion of, the meth lab or whatever this person's doing, right? So Neptune is in the third house of communications. I expect news to surface regarding these events as well. Pay attention to the odd and what Neptune represents. And the finger of God will point directly at the pivotal issues that need to be addressed during this eclipse. So it may not just be the one thing, but it may have to do with a lot of things that Neptune rules over. Okay. Now, the only planet I haven't really touched on too much yet is Mars, the god of fire and anger and war. And in this case, combative Mars will be swimming through the secretive and emotional waters of Scorpio at 1 degree. Mindfire claims this degree point as excitement regarding expanding our horizons so we can bask in the achievements of the collective. Okay, this I think has a very pertinent message to all the people who've been working behind the scenes to help, because this has a lot to do with the group experience. Detectives, police, FBI, private eyes, all working together for a large scale achievement of sorts. And according to Mindfire, this is going to involve a city. You pick which city it seems to apply to. Now, by exposing secrets and cleaning up the swamp, the muck, we have the chance to enhance our collective values and get back to a truer place in America. For some, this experience will also usher in a mystical awakening, especially if you see that my words hold water. Only time will tell, right? Now, this 1-degree Scorpio point could also equate to detectives beginning their furtive hunt through Congress. Now, if you watch the solar or the lunar eclipse first, you know they're going to get really busy, but it's happening around October 14th, but they're going to be really digging the stuff out, 2 weeks later. And they're going to be finding secrets in Congress, secret societies, and various other agencies to unearth what's happening behind the scenes in our government. This could also explain the 10th house energy, right? Because the eclipse is actually happening in the 10th house, and that rules over the government itself. So sleuthing around quietly behind the scenes is an 11th house matter because it rules over private eyes and detectives. But the sphere of where they're looking is in, the 10th house. I got that backwards. Yeah, okay. They're going to be sleuthing in the 11th and finding secrets in the 10th. That's my gut feeling. Now, since Mars often represents men, I suspect that male detectives will be on the scene. Though certainly some tough female energies could be involved too. And whoever it is, you're going to be stirring up a dust storm as you seek for the truth. A little whirlwind of energy is going to be following you around. There is a sextile, that's an easy flow of information, that has forged a link between the detective energy, and I love this, the female Venus symbol located in the 9th, and that's me. And this indicates, again, a positive flow of information between the two. The underlying feeling of what is being shared is the ideal of universal brotherhood. I love that. So I don't know who you are, but I have a feeling we're on the same wavelength. So all of us are children of God, or to my atheist friends, to our own sense of morality. Either way, we're all in this together, right? So sometimes you have to stir up a storm to get to the truth of the matter. If we want a better world, we have to clean up the universe, including our 9th house issues that have run afoul. Currently, what is being muddied is the law, the justice system, and everything else that falls sway to the 9th house powers. Okay. I also see, and again, we'll just see how this turns out, right? And you can provide me feedback later. I also see this male detective energy working well with law enforcement officials. This is represented by Saturn. And I say that because there is a trine or easy flow of information, very simpatico, between this person and the Saturn officials. I sense cooperation in regards to connecting the dots between our halls of power, especially in the Senate, to secret societies and even witchcraft covens. As scary as that is, right? Again, review everything related to the 11th house and the energy of Pisces to understand the tenor of the conversations being held, that are likely going to be revealed in time. This is the beginning of the energy. Again, I suspect that the full moon eclipse 2 weeks later will bring results from behind the veil. Okay. Now, the tougher, and this is my little warning to the people who are helping, right? The tougher relationship I see for everyone who's digging into the 11th house matters, such as Congress, is that this is going to stir the beast to some degree. And I say this because Mars will be squaring Pluto. This is a very powerful and potentially violent and dangerous energy, just so you know and are forewarned. That means detectives will be bumping up against everything that Big G represents. That's powerful people, corporations that have much to lose, and some of our country's leaders, possibly current and past. Some of these entities may not like people peering into matters that reveal corruption regarding governors, secret society lodges, the Senate, and other crime syndicates, all of which are 11th house matters. Now, on the other hand, this same Plutonian government power will also be concerned itself with secrets emerging around autocrats, betrayals, brothels, cadavers, the intimate body parts of women, defilement, and organized crime rings. And again, I'm not making this up. These are simply the issues that surface regarding the energy that's present. Okay? It's all about reading the energy and the symbols. Now, for those brave souls that are facing this dark night with a lot of lurking, ravenous monsters waiting to pounce onto something, my advice is to watch your back very carefully. Evil is afoot. In some cases, so is fanaticism. Data regarding homicides and insurance companies will emerge. You may even find evidence of orgies, things that the devil rules over, poisons, revolutionary upheavals, or Satan himself. All of the various things that bind us and keep us stuck as a society. These are just a few of the things that Pluto holds sway over. And right now, sadly, we appear to be living in very dark times. So, my advice to detectives is this: as you walk through the valley of the shadow of death, you should fear evil, for there will be those who don't want their stink and rot of corruption to be exposed, and some of them will try to bring wrath to your doorstep. Okay? Trying to give you a little heads up, right? Now, powerhouse Pluto in Capricorn will also be squaring the south node in the sun. And here you can see kind of sun-like energy behind this guy. And it's also going to be squaring Mars. So he's got a sword out, so there's angry energy. So big business, big oil, and large organizations will likely resent how some partnerships and alliances get challenged at this time. And you can see this guy, he's going on a journey, but he's got a sword, and he's trying to figure, who do we need to cut out, right? That's exactly what this is about. How do we get to the truth? How do we cut out the things that are no longer serving us well? There will be pressure from the government, I suspect, to dissolve some alliances, be they internal or external partnerships that are no longer serving the country well. This could also equate to loosening the grip of that certain societies and corporations and civic organizations that have run amok and are literally running our country into the ground for their own benefit. So again, there is a mighty sword here, and there's going to be a desire to start cutting out some partnerships that are not working. Just saying. Okay. Now, some partnerships may crumble completely under the weight and inspection of Big G. Okay. And detectives and arbitration may bring in balance. And the 10th house is ruled by Libra. That is the justice system, right? The eclipse, after all, is in Libra. Compromises may be struck as the scales get balanced. Litigation may also be required to bring in the required justice for some. In other cases, negotiators will be called in to work on deals. Large trials could also ensue and become quite public right around this time, and they may actually conclude when the second eclipse comes. So just pay attention. Okay? All right. No matter what shakes out, I hope we can focus on the critical message of our North Node in Aries, which is sitting in the 4th house of our homeland, right next to Chiron. Chiron, of course, is the wounded healer. The message is heal our homeland no matter what or what we have to do to make it happen. God bless America. All right. I would love your feedback when this time rolls around to see what energies pan out to resonate, right? And again, just know this message is being sent with light and love, and that Virgo Venus feeling of seeking improvement in our society. And I know it's going to hit some people probably very hard, right? But sometimes that lesson has to happen in order to raise the vibe. All right. Thank you so much, and God bless. Hi. I'm done, actually. I just finished.